All right, welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute undeniable heartbeat of every single successful business on the planet. We're talking about the power of innovation. Because if you look at the modern economic landscape, it's honestly like watching a movie. It's a cinematic, almost ruthless reality playing out every single day where companies rise to these incredible heights and literal giants just fall to dust. To put this into perspective for you, get this. Back in the 1950s, the average lifespan of a company on the S&P 500 was around 60 years. 60. Today, that lifespan has shrunk drastically to under 18 years. I mean, the turnover is just staggering. But what exactly separates the ones who stay on top from the ones who get completely left behind? Well, that's exactly what we're mapping out today. We're going to deconstruct the DNA of business survival and look closely at how markets, technology, and customer needs force us to adapt. By the end of this deep dive, you're going to look at your own daily strategies in a completely different light. So let's start here. The biggest companies in the world don't survive because they're the biggest. They survive because they never stop innovating. This idea right here, it completely shatters a massive illusion in the business world. You know, it's so easy to look at a massive corporation and think, wow, they are totally safe. They've got deep pockets, massive market share, they're untouchable. But that market size, it offers nothing but an illusion of safety. Actually, scratch that. Size actually makes you a target. Massive scale naturally creates all these layers of bureaucracy, which just bogs down decision-making. It makes giants slow, cumbersome, and incredibly vulnerable to those agile, hungry startups, who can literally pivot their entire business model over a weekend. The real reason these titans remain standing decade after decade isn't their sheer scale, it's their constant, unrelenting dedication to innovation. That continuous drive to evolve, that is the actual heartbeat of their survival. And this brings us to a pretty harsh reality: adapt or disappear completely. I know it sounds super dramatic, but it's the unvarnished truth of today's market. We are operating in this relentless, unforgiving economic landscape where standing still is quite literally no longer an option. Just think about how quickly a once household name can become a distant memory. Brands that defined our childhoods or dominated entire decades are now literally just case studies in business schools, all because they thought they could just coast on their past victories. Listen, if you're doing things the exact same way you were doing them 5 years ago, you aren't just maintaining your position, you are actively falling behind. The world doesn't pause for anyone to catch their breath. The exact moment a business decides it has made it and stops trying to evolve, the countdown to its complete disappearance begins. So what exactly is driving all this intense pressure? It really comes down to these overlapping, unrelenting forces of change. First, markets are constantly shifting beneath our feet, completely influenced by global events and economic tides. Then you have technology advancing so rapidly that what was considered, cutting-edge science fiction just yesterday is a basic operational requirement today. And perhaps most importantly, customer needs perpetually evolve. I mean, just think about the shift in everyday consumer expectations over the last few years alone. People don't just want things fast anymore, they demand instant, same-day delivery, hyper-personalized experiences, and seamless AI integration in almost every single service they use. Because of these shifting expectations, entire industries are facing total disruption practically overnight. These aren't just isolated events, guys. They're a constant storm altering the playing field every single minute. And a failure to adapt to the storm, it doesn't just mean a little dip in quarterly profits, it means getting completely swept away.
History provides us with this really profound contrast between the innovators and the stubborn. On one side, we have visionary businesses that didn't just survive, they transformed entire industries. These are the companies that willingly cannibalized their own best-selling products just to stay ahead of the curve. Think of Apple. They made their wildly successful iPod virtually obsolete by rolling those exact features into the very first iPhone. That is the mindset of a true innovator. Now, on the other side, we have the stubborn. The corporate graveyard is absolutely filled with executives who literally laughed at new technology because they were comfortable. We've all heard the stories, right? Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix for an absolute fraction of its value, but walked away because they truly believed their brick-and-mortar rental model was untouchable. Kodak invented the first digital camera, but buried it just to protect their profitable film business. They clung to their old models, convinced that their past success somehow guaranteed their future, and they vanished. It's wild, but you get to choose which path you take.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the dramatic reality of failure, but let's pivot to the good stuff, the uplifting, actionable strategies. How do successful entrepreneurs actually navigate all this chaos? Well, they follow a structured, deliberate approach to staying ahead of the curve. It's a set of principles we can call the innovator's modern playbook. And the most exciting part? This playbook isn't some highly guarded secret reserved only for Silicon Valley billionaires or massive tech conglomerates. It's a highly scalable mindset. Whether you're leading a multinational corporation, running a local storefront, or operating as a solo freelancer, these principles can be adapted to secure your future. It's all about removing blind luck from the equation and replacing it with intentional, forward-thinking strategy. Let's break down exactly what that playbook looks like in action. First, you absolutely have to embrace true creativity. This means actively encouraging out-of-the-box thinking from everyone in your organization, from the interns all the way up to the executives. Second, experiment fearlessly. You have to create a culture where failing fast is actually celebrated. Testing a small, quirky feature before $1 million rollout teaches you exactly what the market wants without taking on a catastrophic risk. Third, continually improve your existing products. Innovation isn't always some brand new, shiny invention. Often, it's just listening closely to customer feedback and making your current offering significantly better. Finally, leverage AI and modern tech to beat your competitors. The most successful entrepreneurs today are using AI not to replace their workforce, but for predictive analytics, to understand complex data trends, and to automate all those mundane tasks. That way, their human teams have the freedom to actually be creative. Now, I want to pause here for a second and shift our focus from the macro business landscape directly to your daily life. Are you becoming too comfortable with old methods? It's a tough, very direct question, but an absolutely necessary one. You see, human psychology naturally gravitates toward comfort. Why? Because comfort feels exactly like success. When we find a method that works, a marketing strategy that converts, or a daily workflow that gets the job done, our immediate instinct is to lock it in and put it on autopilot. But as we've seen from the giants who fell, that feeling of comfort is the ultimate enemy of innovation. So I challenge you to look at your own routines right now. Where have you stopped questioning the process? Where are you just coasting? Because that very area where you feel the most secure, that is exactly where your greatest vulnerability lies. The only antidote to that complacency is proactive action. So here is your personal action plan for lifelong success. First, become a lifelong learner. Your education never stops. The exact moment you think you know everything there is to know about your industry is the moment a hungry competitor overtakes you. Second, stay perpetually curious. Constantly ask, why do we do it this way? And what if we tried this instead? Curiosity is the absolute bedrock of creativity. And finally, never settle for comfort. You have to intentionally push yourself into uncharted territories. For an everyday professional, this might mean reading publications completely outside your specific industry, forcing yourself to learn a brand new software tool, or attending a conference entirely unrelated to your current field. That active rejection of the familiar is the only place where true exponential growth actually happens. Ultimately, it all comes down to how we define our end goal. Innovation is not inventing something impossible. It's just making tomorrow better than today. And I love this reframe because it makes the entire concept incredibly accessible. People often get paralyzed by the word innovation because they assume it means they have to go invent the next revolutionary smartphone or build a commercial spaceship. But true innovation isn't about an impossible, miraculous leap. It's the continuous, gritty pursuit of incremental improvement. It's the philosophy of a 1% daily gain. If you look at your product, your service, or your workflow and find a way to make it just 1% better, faster, or more efficient today, that compounds. Over a year, those tiny, daily 1% improvements create a massive, completely unrecognizable transformation. That relentless pursuit of making tomorrow better is the only true security you have in a constantly shifting world. Embrace the change. Implement the playbook, and whatever you do, refuse to be stubborn. So, when you look at your business tomorrow morning, you have to ask yourself one final, critical question. Are you building the future, or are you just protecting the past? My name's Khubaib Orakzai. My wallet is business. Innovation turns ordinary ideas into extraordinary businesses. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.